All right, let's get into it, because the story of Terry Bradshaw, it's insane. We're not talking about some guy who was just born a champion. Nah, this dude was forged in the fire. Like, literally had to fight through criticism, failure, you name it. This is that story.
Okay, so you gotta picture this. It's Super Bowl 13, the biggest stage in football. The Steelers are backed up, deep in their own territory. The pressure is cranked to 1,000,000, the whole world's watching. And what's the QB gonna do? Play it safe or risk it all for the glory? Well, my nature was to attack, always. Throw it deep. See, anybody can throw a little out route to the wide side of the field, but me? Let's go deep. That's just how I was wired. You see that green grass down there? You gotta let that football fly. That's where the glory is.
So to really get why this guy would always take that shot, we gotta rewind way back. Because he wasn't some polished big city QB. Nope. This story starts on a farm in Shreveport, Louisiana.
And I'm not kidding, bro. He was a farm kid, through and through. We're talking fishing in creeks, throwing rocks at trees, and just slinging a football. But that arm, it was a straight-up cannon, like once-in-a-generation stuff. Just raw, unbelievable talent. 245 feet. You might be thinking, what is that? Well, get this. That was his national high school record in the javelin throw. A javelin. The power you need to hurl a spear that far, yeah, that translates pretty damn well to throwing a football. It wasn't just an arm, it was a weapon.
I was just a kid, And I remember plain as day telling my dad, I'm gonna play professional football. And he just looks at me and says, "That's great, boy. Yeah, go on now, get out of here." He didn't take me too seriously, I don't think. But deep down, I knew. I just knew where I was headed.
And you know what? He was right. That cannon of an arm got him noticed. Big time. They started calling him the Blonde Bomber. This kid from a small school with this unbelievable arm, and before you knew it, the entire NFL was watching.
And this is where the pressure cooker gets turned on. He gets drafted #1 overall. By who? The Pittsburgh Steelers. And you have to understand, the Steelers back then they were terrible. A joke. They had never, ever won a playoff game. So the weight of this entire long-suffering city, it was all put right on this farm kid's shoulders.
Now hold on. Before Pittsburgh, everyone, and I mean everyone, was pushing me to go to LSU. The big time, That pressure was something else. But that life it wasn't for me. So I had a little game plan. I went and took their entrance exam. And boy, I made sure I was the first one done. Just failed that thing on purpose. It was my get-out-of-jail-free card. And that's how I ended up right where I was supposed to be. Louisiana Tech, a place where a country boy could just be a country boy.
So, think about this. The guy who literally flunked a test to avoid the spotlight, now he's the #1 pick in Pittsburgh, a hard-nosed, blue-collar, steel town. The culture shock was insane, and the media, they didn't see a savior. Nah, they looked at him and saw a Bayou bumpkin.
And the insults just started flying. They were brutal. This right here, this is maybe the most famous piece of trash talk in NFL history. Came from Cowboys linebacker Thomas Hollywood Henderson. And here's the thing, it wasn't just trash talk, bro. It stuck. It became the entire narrative about him.
Let me tell you something. Down south, we talk slow because it's hot. It's just a fact. You got to take your time, Conserve energy. These folks up north, they talk fast because they're trying to stay warm. But they hear a guy with a draw like mine, and what do they think? Oh, he must be stupid. That's what I was up against.
And all that noise, all that media crap, it started to affect him on the field. Of course it did. He started struggling, making mistakes, and then the worst part. The same fans who looked at him like he was their savior, they started booing him in his own stadium.
And his rookie stats, they are insane, and not in a good way. 6 touchdowns to 24 interceptions. Let me put that in perspective for you. For every 1 touchdown he threw 4 picks to the other team. It was an absolute disaster.
Look, I was just a kid, and I was the kind of kid that needed a pat on the back, Not an ass chewing, but that's all I got from Chuck Noll, my coach. He chewed my ass out constantly. And that don't bring the best out in a guy like me. To be honest with you, I feared the hell out of him.
And this slide just lays it all out, right? Look at the difference. In college, he had a guy, Mickey Slaughter, who was all encouragement. Baby, don't worry about it. We love you. Then he gets to the pros, and it's Chuck Noll, all business, all criticism. Imagine going from one to the other. It was a complete shock to the system for a kid who just wanted to feel supported.
So let's recap. He's being called dumb by the whole country. He's getting booed by his own fans, and his own coach is riding him non-stop. He's at rock bottom. But this is where the story gets good. This is the turning point. This is where he gets forged in fire.
Okay, just look at this timeline from the 1974 season. It's an absolute roller coaster. Start of the season, boom, he's benched. So what's he do? He marches into Coach Noll's office and demands a trade. He wants out. He's done. But then something clicks. Noll puts him back in. And what happens? He goes on a run and leads the Steelers to their first ever Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? What a comeback.
So, after we finally won it all, a reporter comes up to me and asks, "Terry, does that answer all your critics?" And I told him, I'm hoping it's over with, but I know it isn't. You see, even with that ring on my finger, I knew that dumb label, it was going to stick with me. It just was.
And that's the whole story right there. He wasn't just some phenom with a big arm. He was a survivor. He literally took all the hate, all the doubt, all the pressure from an entire city and used it to become a champion. He went from being a farm kid just trying to figure things out to taking on the world and winning.
So, okay, he proved everyone wrong. He got the ring. Story's over, right? No way. Not even close. Because look, winning one Super Bowl makes you a hero. But building a dynasty? Oh, that makes you a legend.
He had officially become a champion, but what he was about to do next would make him a legend. That whole dynasty, winning 4 rings in just 6 years? Yeah, that's the story we're getting into next.
4 rings, 6 years, 2 MVPs. Before he was the guy cracking jokes on TV, he was the most clutch QB on the planet. But you probably don't know the real story of Terry Bradshaw's insane Steelers dynasty. Okay, let's dive into this.
That's from Mean Joe Green himself, bro. But before he was a legend, he was a target.
Bradshaw's career started rough, with the media and even his own coach doubting him.
They literally called him dumb. But what did Terry have to say about that?
Well, now you got to conserve your energy in that Louisiana heat. My coach, Chuck Noll, he didn't quite get that. I was a kid that needed a pat on the back, not an ass chewing.
It got so bad he wanted out. But then Chuck Noll put him back in, just in time for the playoffs, and everything changed.
This is where the ascent begins, the first taste of glory.
First, he takes them to the franchise's first ever Super Bowl.
And they win. A complete beatdown of the Vikings. Ring number 1.
Even after that win, I knew it wasn't over. I figured I'd have to go on living with that label. The very next year, they're back. And this next throw is insane. Down in the 4th quarter, he stands in the pocket, takes a massive hit, and unleashes this bomb to Lynn Swann for the game winner.
I just dropped back and let her fly. My nature was to attack, throw it deep. Anybody can throw wide. Let's go deep.
By 78, Bradshaw wasn't just a winner, he was the best in the league.
He leads the entire NFL in touchdowns and gets named MVP. But heading into Super Bowl 13 against Dallas, one guy still wasn't convinced.
Here's something like that before the biggest game of your life. And inside, I was just steaming. So what's Bradshaw do? He goes out and has the game of his life. He just absolutely cooked the Cowboys defense. This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate comeback.
After the game, I just couldn't help myself. 3 rings are great, but 4 rings in 6 years? That's a dynasty, bro.
They're back again. The Steelers are down 19-17 in the 4th quarter. No sweat.
Bradshaw launches an absolute dagger to John Stallworth. Touchdown. Game over.
People don't realize the pressure. It's the defining moment in your professional life. I just had this ability to focus, because I did not want to lose a Super Bowl.
And that's 4 championships in 6 seasons. The only QB to ever do it. An absolutely legendary run.
After that 4th one, I remember the stress, the migraine headaches. I told my dad, man, I need to retire. I've had enough of this.
He came back, but years of taking big hits were catching up. A lingering elbow injury in 1983 would change everything, and his career would end not on his own terms, but with one final, painful throw.
Bro, you think you know Terry Bradshaw from Fox, right? The guy who's always laughing? But the story of the man behind the 4 rings, well, that's a whole different ballgame. It's a heavy weight, that crown, and it's even heavier when you finally take it off. Okay, let's dive into this because before the struggle, there was the absolute legend, the blonde bomber of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Look at this run. 4 Super Bowls in just 6 years. That's not just good, that's insane. He was the very first QB to ever do it. And this number right here, 212, that's career touchdown passes. It just brilliantly illustrates the power we're talking about. The man had an absolute cannon.
Bro, can you even imagine that? A pass so fast it sings? He was just a different breed, man.
You know, critics called him dumb all because of his southern drawl, but on the field, he was a genius, calling his own plays. So the crucial point is, the myth was real. But what happens when the game ends? The roar of the crowd is the loudest sound in the world, until it stops.
One throw and it was all over. Just gone. I was relieved at first, to be honest with you, but that quiet, man, it gets to you.
I'd suffered from it for years, you know, the anxiety attacks after games, but after my 3rd divorce, it hit hard. I mean, I was crying in parking lots, just trying to breathe. On the outside, I had it all, but inside, let me tell you, 4 rings couldn't fill the empty. That's a kind of loneliness no championship can ever fix.
Okay, let's move on and see how this builds. Because this is where the comeback story gets real. Not on the field, but in life.
After 13 years of running scared, I finally married Tammy. She was the one who saw Terry, not the quarterback. And what a second act. He's been on Fox since the very beginning, becoming a TV legend all over again.
And he did it his way. Yeah, he went nude in a movie. You think he cared? He said check cleared. That's confidence, bro.
The man has done literally everything. It's like he decided to have 5 different careers after his first one ended. Just incredible.
Then came a fight tougher than any defense. 2 cancers in 1 year. But you know, just like on the field, you gotta keep fighting. And with Tammy by my side, we won.
Those 4 rings are nice. They shine, but they ain't the story. Not the whole story, anyway.
So what does it really mean to be a champion? Is it the trophies? Or is it the courage to admit you're broken and then the strength to put yourself back together over and over again?
I'm so lonesome I could cry.